My children, gather ye thou dice and thy minis, for I bring unto you divine revelation. Long have DMs struggled in the dark, fumbling through notes, flipping through monster manuals, searching for the perfect scene. But lo, look, yonder hints a tool worthy of the heavens, the stream deck. 'Tis the stream deck, and with this tool we ascend into god-tier encounters. DMs, this is how you build a scene.
Okay, celestial theatrics aside, let's talk about real-world DM prep. This video is all about how you can use the Elgato Stream Deck to create these immersive encounters without bogging down the pacing or having to flip through 19 different tabs. It's useful for all kinds of encounters: exploration, roleplay, and even combat. So here's how I have mine set up. Every button has a purpose. This is so much more than just music or sound effects. When the world reacts to those player choices, that's when you go from decent up to god tier. So let me show you how all of this comes together. This is a scene from my campaign where one of my players was out in the wilderness, in the jungle, and they were trying to encounter the Wild Mother. So she is the goddess of wilderness and nature, and the very last thing I want my players to see her as is just another NPC. I didn't want to just play a character that answers or has conversations. I wanted to make it more cinematic. So this is how we started off. You can hear the crickets and the chirping and just the ambient noises of the forest. There's a subtle music droning in the background. All of this happens from just a single button press. The player asked a question. Instead of giving just a direct answer, I was able to describe the nature around them. For example, they asked a question that made her angry. Instantly, I'm able to start to describe how the light from the trees changes. The sound is much more oppressive. Snakes begin to rise up from underneath logs, hissing, warning, expressing nature's danger signs. I didn't tell them exactly that it was the wrong thing to ask, but they definitely got the hint. When a message or a vision of sorrow comes up, you hear the lonely cry of a bird out in the distance. You hear the distant rumble of thunder. You see the blue light escaping through the canopy. It gives you an oppressive grief state. Just when you think all hope is lost, the light shines through and you hear the baby birds chirping, expressing their will to live, their need to be part of this world. So the conversation continued around this, and it was really interesting to see how they interpreted the various signs and signals that I was able to give them. It made it feel more divine. And then, once their conversation rounded out, I was able to go into a vision. The vision was of fear. You immediately feel this heart pulse. You feel the oppressiveness of purple around you. You hear the droning in your ears. And this was great because as I was describing what would happen to the homeland of this character if they didn't succeed, they were able to get their own sense of urgency as to what the Wild Mother wanted them to do, and I didn't have to say it verbatim. This was all implications and collective ideas and themes that they had gotten that they themselves came up with. It was an awesome moment. And then at the end, the Wild Mother presented them with some magically holy item, and I was able to play the angels singing, and they really felt like they had passed any test that the Wild Mother had, and they had culminated into this apex of feeling. After all of those building emotions, it really was the climax of the moment as they were presented with this holy gift from the Wild Mother herself. And without saying a single word, the Wild Mother was able to deliver her message and her gift just using her environment. The room shifts, the players went quiet. There's a lot of power in just a single button press. Okay, so how do I build this moment? Well, let's check it out. Each encounter has its own folder. Here's the Wild Mother inside of one. And if you open up these particular buttons, there's a combination of things that are happening. When you press the button, everything within this multi-action occurs. So you start off at the top where there's a lighting change. Then you're able to play multiple MP3 files simultaneously and able to change a Spotify playlist to help further enhance that mood. Every button press presented my players with an image. Since we were in a role-playing scenario, we didn't need a map at the time. Each of those variations was a different version of the same scene with just a slight change each and every time that matched the tone and the mood. I like to start it off with Spotify. It gives it a real cinematic score. Then I give MP3s that add to that flavor and I stack them up there. Notice right here that I have it on loop, so once I press it, I can have it continually go in a circle. If you want, you can also have it start-stop. There's several other options, but for me, I wanted it to keep running so that way I could focus on the players. I didn't have to spend time flipping through books or tabs or having to do all this. It's all in there with single button press, and once I play it, we just let go. Let's talk about the gear that makes this setup work. Now, you can customize this to your budget and needs, but I want to show you what works on my end. So you may have seen my previous videos where I go over the basics of the streamdeck Plus. I really enjoy this model because I'm able to use these knobs, and they're nice clickety knobs, to turn up and down the music as the situation calls for. This is the biggest piece of hardware that I bought. It runs for about $200 on Elgato.com, and honestly, it's worth every bit of the investment. My players were all able to help pay for this, so everyone chipped in like 30 bucks, and it's really made a difference in our game. You can assign folders, triggers, custom icons. These things really are great. If you're looking to pick one up, I've got a link down below. It's an affiliate link. It really helps support the channel, and to be honest, these things are awesome. You can use them for so many things beyond D&D, but let's be honest, what really is beyond D&D? Next up, I have my smart lights. Now, smart lights are a rabbit hole that I am not willing to go down into with programming and soldering irons and all of that. So I stuck with GoV that has a native integration with the Stream Deck. And honestly, it is the simplest lighting that I've ever used. And on a day-to-day basis, in between my D&D games, I'm able to use my Elgato Stream Deck as a light switch, and I can adjust the lighting based on whatever my needs are at the time in the room. Now, the first thing I do is I base the entire mood or scene based on what Spotify playlist I have going. Everything else is built around that Spotify. So if you have a premium Spotify account, that's the first one. The other part of that is getting a hold of the MP3s. I have a premium subscription to envato.com. It's a really great resource just for any type of creative. But if you don't want to shell out any more money, which it's not the cheapest thing in the world, there are tons of MP3 resources out there, like freesound.org, Tabletop Audio, Zatsplat, iComTech. All of those will be linked down below. Even just a few of these tools will really elevate your encounter presentation to the very next level. And by using the affiliate links in the description below, you're helping me keep the lights and the gods on at the table, and I really appreciate the support. As a DM, you work hard. You spend more time prepping for a session than actually playing. So your sessions at your table, they deserve to have these god tier moments. So with a little setup and some creativity, you can build those moments one button press at a time. So if you have questions on how to build your own immersive setup, or maybe you have ideas for scenes that you want help with, or maybe you just want an idea for another video in this kind of similar vein, drop them down in the comments below. I would love to see how you guys manage to bring your tech at the table and bring your stories to life. And hey, if this video gave you any inspiration or any ideas, consider subscribing. So I'm Jared from Carpe Diem, and with this button press, I'm out.